So this is a story about the FBI. Now, the FBI has for a long time, of course, been in what? Law enforcement, right? They're the guys who go get the bad guys. They're not the CIA. They're not focused on things that are happening abroad. They're not the Department of Homeland Security. They're not the Defense Department. They're the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigations. They do investigations here at home, right? Well, it's interesting because they recently changed their FBI fact sheet. The old fact sheet said the primary function of the FBI is law enforcement. That makes sense. That's what we grew up with. The new fact sheet says the primary function of the FBI is national security. Now, wait a minute. Department of Homeland Security does national security. Department of Defense does national security. Why is the FBI doing national security? FBI has 100 different crimes to track. It's not just about national security. Okay, so now there's an excellent article in Foreign Policy that explains why they do this. They talked to national security lawyer Kel McClanahan, and he made a great point. He said, I think they're trying to rebrand. So many good things happen to your agency when you tie it to national security. He goes on to explain a little bit more in detail. He says, if you tie yourself to national security, you get funding and you get exemptions on disclosure cases. You get all the wonderful arguments about how if you don't get your way, buildings will blow up and the country will be less safe. Bingo. So, oh, you got an issue with a disclosure case, you're having trouble. No, national security, step aside, step aside. I don't have to disclose anything to you, etc. Okay? Are you giving me trouble? National security, if you don't give me what I want, the terrorists are going to win, right? And will you get more money that way internally? You betcha, okay? That's where the money's flowing in buckets. But that's not the only reason for this rebranding and restructuring of the FBI. Now, let me explain. First of all, between 2001 and 2009, the FBI doubled the amount of agents dedicated to counterterrorism. Now, if you looked at that fact by itself, you might think, hey, wait a minute, that's not such a bad thing. You know, doing counterterrorism, great, we doubled our efforts. But they didn't double the FBI's budget. No, you see, they had to shift things around and make other priorities less important. So FBI agent Brad Garrett explains, violent crime, property crime, and white-collar crime, all those things had reductions in the number of people available to investigate them. So, if there was some violent crime around you, sad day, we moved it to counterterrorism, okay? Now, how many terror plots are there in the country? Not that many, but that's where the big bucks are. So, who cares if you got crime in your area? In fact, Robert Hawley's a special agent near Chicago, where they have a significant amount of violent crime. He says, if I put more resources in violent crime, I'd have to take away from other things, like counterterrorism. So he doesn't. So the FBI puts less resources into violent crime in Chicago. And look, there's 100 different reasons for it, but this is among them. And voila, we have more violent crime. Now, there's a lot of different factors. But when it comes to white-collar crime, the FBI is absolutely critical. They're one of the fewer organizations in the country that have enough resources to be able to go after big banks and huge financial institutions with huge resources who can lawyer up and fight back against you. Well, luckily, back in 2000, we had about 10,000 cases the FBI was investigating, white-collar crime investigations. Uh-oh. Well, with a new restructuring in the Bush years after 9/11, well, you look at that in 2005, only 3,500 cases. If you're counting at home, that's about a 2/3 reduction. Oh, golly gee, are they doing white-collar crime and all that financial fraud? Oh, oops, we didn't have the FBI guys to be able to investigate it. What could we do? Seattle Post-Intelligencer did a great report about this back in 2007. Had the FBI continued investigating financial crimes at the same rate as it had been before the terror attacks, about 2,000 more white-collar criminals would be behind bars. All those white-collar criminals free to go. And that was in 2007. What happened after 2007? Oh, right. The biggest financial collapse in American history next to the Great Depression. And why? Because we had the biggest financial fraud in American history. And those guys, right, also free to go. I guess you hit a couple of birds with that one stone when all of a sudden the FBI is not about law enforcement anymore. It's about national security. Part of the reason for that is because they don't want to enforce the law. The robbers are in charge, my friends. They own Washington, and now they're defunding all of their enemies. Whether it's the SEC, we've done stories about that before, whether it's all the regulatory bodies, when you hear them railing, oh, regulation, what they're saying is, oh, don't regulate Wall Street. Because if there aren't cops on the beat, well, the robbers are very, very happy about that. And now they've even gutted the FBI looking into white-collar crime.